Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever stared at a complex problem until your brain literally hurt, only to have someone walk up and tell you, hey, maybe you're just not a natural at this? Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. Well, today we're going to dive into some profound science-backed cognitive tools that completely dismantle society's deeply ingrained myths about talent, intelligence, and stress. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by a challenge, or just wanted to pull your hair out when learning something new, the insights we're about to cover are going to change exactly how your brain processes that friction. Because we all do it, right? We praise kids or even our coworkers by calling them smart. And it feels like the right thing to do in the moment. We grow up thinking that slapping a positive label on someone, like calling them gifted or a natural athlete, is absolutely the best way to boost their confidence. But we are going to explore a really counterintuitive reality today. Attaching someone's core identity to their performance can actually set them up for catastrophic failure down the road. So here's how we're going to unpack this today. We'll start with the praise paradox, look inside the mindset brain, explore the stress advantage, combine them into the synergistic mindset, and finally wrap up with some concrete tools for growth. Let's get right into it. Part 1, the praise paradox. To truly grasp how revolutionary modern psychological research actually is, we kind of have to jump back in a time machine to 1996. Get this, back then, a staggering 85% of parents believed intelligence was completely fixed. Think about how wild that sounds now. They essentially viewed the human brain as a bucket of a predetermined size. You were either born with a big bucket, meaning you were smart, or a small one, and that was just your lot in life. But landmark studies by psychologist Carol Dweck proved that how we deliver praise actively shapes a person's capacity to learn. It literally expands or shrinks that proverbial bucket. And this brings us to a massive divide between two very different types of feedback. On one side, we have intelligence praise. This is when you attach someone's identity to a fixed label, saying things like, wow, you got an A, you are so smart, or you are just so naturally talented. But on the flip side, there's effort praise. This approach is entirely focused on the verbs. You're praising the actual process. It sounds more like, wow, you persisted through that really difficult challenge, or I love the way you analyze that problem. But here's where Dweck's research uncovered a truly sinister side to that first type, intelligence praise. Imagine you're a kid in a study. You crush a puzzle, and a researcher looks at you and says, wow, you are so smart. Later, they give you a choice, an easy puzzle or a hard one where you might actually make a mistake. Dweck found that kids labeled smart actively shrank away and dodged the hard problems. Why? Because they were terrified of losing their shiny new smart label. When forced to do the harder problems anyway, their performance tanked over time. They literally crumbled under the weight of the label. And most shockingly, when asked to report their scores to their peers, the kids praised for their intelligence frequently just flat out lied. They artificially inflated their scores to protect their egos. Meanwhile, the kids praised for their effort, the verbs. They eagerly tackled harder challenges, performed vastly better over time, and honestly reported their results. Which leads us right into part 2, inside the mindset brain. Okay, so what is physically happening under the hood of our brains when we mess up? Researchers did this fascinating brainwave study using event-related potentials to look at the anterior cingulate cortex, or the ACC. You can think of the ACC as your brain's error detection center. Now, when people with a fixed mindset made an error, the front part of this area just lit up. This is a massive emotional, somatic response. It's that hot, prickling flush of shame you feel in your chest when you realize you just messed up in front of your boss. But, and here's the cool part, in people with a growth mindset, the brain activity physically shifted to the top part of this structure, an area associated with cold, calculating cognitive appraisal. They weren't just drowning in the feeling of the error, they were analyzing the actual mechanics of it. You know how people are always giving you that advice to just put your ego aside? Well, that is way too abstract. You can't just forcefully suppress an emotional sting through sheer willpower. A true growth mindset isn't just some toxic positivity. It means actively, physically devoting your brain's attentional resources to figuring out exactly why you got something wrong in the first place. You're taking your brain's raw horsepower, shifting it away from feeling bad, and pouring it directly into problem solving. Moving right along to part 3, the stress advantage. Because look, staring at your own failures is deeply uncomfortable. Think about the last time you were in a super high-stress moment, maybe right before a huge presentation. Your palms were sweating, your vision tunneled, your heart was practically pounding out of your chest. Society constantly tells us this means we are panicking, that we're failing. But pioneering work by Dr. Ali Crum at Stanford discovered what she calls the stress is enhancing mindset. This mental lens totally transforms how we view anxiety. Instead of seeing that racing heart as a sign of impending doom, you realize, oh wait, this is actually my body actively mobilizing resources to help me perform at my absolute peak. And guys, this isn't just some placebo effect. This literally changes your biology. If you simply believe the myth that stress diminishes performance, your body actually restricts peripheral blood flow under pressure. You turn into an ice block. You physically freeze up. But if you're taught that stress actually mobilizes resources, your body responds dynamically. It increases the amount of blood your heart pumps with every single beat. Your peripheral blood flow opens up, oxygen floods your system, and your brain maintains crystal clear cognition. Literally just changing your belief about stress optimizes your cardiovascular system for the challenge at hand. It's wild. All right, part 4, the synergistic mindset. So what happens if we mash these two powerhouse concepts together? Well, Dr. David Yager ran massive studies across thousands of individuals to test exactly this equation, taking the growth mindset and combining it with the stresses enhancing mindset. And he proved that blending these two acts as an absolute supercharger. We're talking a major breakthrough here. It drastically buffers individuals against the debilitating anxiety they feel before an event, and it provides the exact fuel they need to navigate the real-time stress during the event. The sheer scale of the results from Yager's intervention was honestly staggering. Students completed a single 30-minute tutorial explaining how the brain grows and how stress actually enhances performance. Just think about that for a second. After just a 30-minute shift in perspective, these students experienced a massive 40% improvement in self-regard. They successfully passed significantly more challenging courses, and completely voluntarily, they started taking on much harder future challenges. All of that incredible momentum from just one 30-minute intervention. There's this quote from calculus professor Yuri Treisman that was a huge cornerstone of that intervention, and it goes, "Difficulty and frustration are not signs you've reached your limits. They are signs you are expanding them." I mean, how perfectly does that capture reality? When you're learning something hard, that intense agitation you feel inside isn't a red flag screaming at you to stop. It's not a sign that you don't belong in the room or that you aren't smart enough. No, that physical, agonizing frustration is the biological indicator that your capacity is currently expanding. And finally, part 5, tools for growth. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, I want you to grab these 3 actionable steps. Number 1, praise the verbs. Catch yourself right before you call a coworker a genius or tell yourself you're terrible at math. Shift the dialogue. Say, I haven't practiced my transitions enough, or you really analyze that data well. Number 2, seek analytical help. High performers don't hide their errors in shame. They proactively go to others and ask them to help analyze the specific verbs that led to the mistake. And number 3, write a mindset letter. Literally sit down and write out these concepts as if you were explaining them to a beginner, because the act of actively teaching these mindsets to someone else physically rewires your own brain to adopt them faster. And as we wrap up, we really need to flip that whole popular "the mind is a muscle" analogy totally on its head. Think about it. When you go to the gym and lift weights, you get a pump, right? Blood rushes in, your muscle temporarily feels bigger, and you get this very satisfying preview of the end result. But your brain? It doesn't work like that at all. When you're stretching your cognitive limits, you don't suddenly feel brilliant. Your brain feels like it's burning. You feel pure frustration, confusion, and deep, deep strain. I want to validate that feeling for you right now. You have to realize that this specific feeling of agitation isn't getting in the way of your learning. It is the exact neurochemical signature of your brain upgrading itself. So as we bring this explainer to a close, I want to leave you with a definitive choice. The very next time you face a grueling challenge and you feel that familiar spike in your heart rate and that massive wave of frustration, I want you to remember, your body isn't telling you to quit. It is giving you the fuel to grow. So the question is, are you going to fall back into a fixed mindset and let that stress defeat you? Or will you use that incredible biological mobilization to lean in, analyze the error, and expand your limits? The mindset is entirely up to you.